Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Unravel Your Mind. We're here to help transform relationships to love and life. So, we've got a great lineup of questions today. Please, if you're watching this live, feel free to put a question in the comments. In the future, you can always put it in my Queen Bliss Bee on Instagram, in private comments if you don't want it to be public, and also on Facebook at Beth Bell Live. So lots of ways that you can submit a question, and I have something new coming up, which I'll tell you about next week. But for now, you can go ahead and private message me or put it in the comments right here on YouTube. So if you're in replay, no worries. You're still going to be able to ask your question, and I'll still find it for next week's show. So thank you so much for joining. Let's dive right in to our questions this week. Okay, first question. I am 75 and have never spoken up for myself. My family walked all over me, then my children. I never wanted to hurt anyone's feelings. Something snapped last weekend. I said no. I feel so guilty, but at the same time, so free. Cruel things are being said to me. Am I right to block family on my phone? Well, that's a really interesting question. I'm always going to say it's always about the lesson that you've called in all of these characters in your play to help you learn. So I would continue to dive deep into, why did I call this in? Why did I call in all these characters to treat me this way? And also be proud of yourself for the fact that you've actually stood up and said no. Like, you really, within you, it sounds like you found this place of your own boundaries and of you just, I hope from a loving place, said no. And so I think that's where it comes into when you're saying, do I need to block these people, my family? I'm not a big blocker. Blocking is an energetic boundary that I like to make without having to do the physical blocking. Now, only you know for sure if blocking them is for your best interest. So I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying it's something that you need to really feel into. But I don't like to block people because I like to get the lesson until I've been able to really transform those relationships into love. Now, when I say into love, I mean into love in my heart, right? Where we're at a place where we're able to forgive and move beyond. And sometimes that means that these people are no longer in our life. So it doesn't mean we always keep them close to us, but we want to make sure that we're digging deep into what is the underlying wound that is having us experience this with the people that are so close to us, our family, right? So really dig in there. It sounds like you're doing the work, and the fact that you really were able to say no, hey, be proud of that and know when to say no again. But the other thing that comes to mind to share about that is when we say no, there's a tonality and an energy that comes with it that can come from a very loving place, a forgiving place, a knowing place of what's right for us, versus a bitter place or a place that is creating a barrier that's not from love. There's just a real fine line sometimes, and sometimes there's a really obvious line. So I would ask you to go really into here, into your core, and say, what is my emotion? What am I feeling? And what do I need to transmute for me? Right? We want to stop thinking that we have to change everybody else, because when we change ourselves, when we transmute these ideas about ourself and our self-worth to be able to say, no, that's not right for me, from a loving place, that's where the mastery comes in. You're on it. And thank you so much for submitting the question. If you have any thoughts, if you're on here live or you're watching on replay, I'm all ears for anything you might want to say in comments, or if you want me to address something more in the future. So thank you. Okay, so let's jump into the next question. I see we've got some live questions coming in today too. So let me come back to that in just 1 minute. Okay, so the next question is, I met a guy for happy hour under the guise of work. I wondered if it might be something more and was excited to see if there was any chemistry. We had a deep spiritual conversation, and the discussion flowed effortlessly. I have a pattern of attracting men who appreciate me for my spiritual glow, but then aren't interested in me romantically. I keep wondering if this will turn into something more. Well, what comes to me to say is stop trying to look for someone at work that's going to be romance. Maybe you're not looking for them there, but let's just uncouple these ideas. It doesn't mean we can't meet someone through work. I'm just saying that if you're meeting for work, make it work. Talk about work. By all means, do it spiritual. Like we want to infiltrate the spirituality of who we are and the lessons in every day, whether it's work or play. So I'm not saying not to be spiritual. I'm just saying take that lens off that this is about looking at the guy for a romantic partner. And if it turns out to be, how lovely, right? How lovely if there's something a little bit more. But I would also say is that because you're sort of looking for this, that you really want to keep the boundaries of the discussion so that you can read the room, if you will. And I mean read that person. So what I mean by that is that you want to feel into, is it just me having a fantasy about this person, or are the cues really clear? Because if a man is interested in a woman, and granted, yes, some men are nervous, don't have the confidence, don't want to, take charge and jump in. But most men, in fact, if it's a man that you really are interested in, because I get the feeling that you're a very confident woman, that the man's going to jump in and he's going to let you know that he's interested. He's going to let you know with either some really great comment or compliment, or maybe something awkward. But you know that they have a romantic interest in you. They say things like, oh, I'm single, or, whatever. So if you're leaving a situation and you have no idea someone's marital status, that also gives you some signs, right? Or relationship status. And again, it's work. I'm not saying that people from work are going to tell you all this, but I'm saying you're asking, if this is a pattern where you're looking for them to be romantic, then they're going to give you the cues to know. And then if they're not giving you those cues, just be really confident and clear in yourself that this is a work relationship, and leave it at work. Don't start fantasizing about, could it be more? We had this in-depth conversation. No, stop it right there and just be like, thank you. I met this wonderful man. We had great conversation, and that's going to be work. And then we don't treat it like we would if we were interested in dating someone, because they haven't given us any of those signals, and keep moving on. And I'm saying this because you're suggesting that there's a pattern here, right? And so it sounds like maybe a mismatch in interest level for romance. And so you want someone, honestly, you want someone who you feel like they could lean over and kiss you at any point in time. And I don't mean that from a sexual place. I don't mean that from a lustful place. I just mean that from a romantic interest place. All right. If any of you listening on the replay or live have a situation where you've had something like this happen, I would love to hear from you. If you know what I mean about that spark that for sure, whether you're a woman or a man listening right now, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that spark, and whether you take action or you give the person the cue that you're interested romantically. And if you're not, you don't. All right. Let's look at the live chat. I think there's some good stuff coming in. I have a question. I value honesty. Recently, I found that so many people lie on their dating app profile. Is it okay to lie about the age on the profile? I matched to someone who said he was 7 years older than me, but when I talked to him, I found out he was in fact 17 years older than me. I am not saying it is a deal breaker, but why do people lie? Am I being closed-minded? Is lying their age on the profile a red flag? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to answer this from two perspectives, because I've witnessed that some older, more mature gentlemen who are fabulous do lie on their profile because they fall into that category that nobody chooses, and they don't get matched to anyone. And so they make themselves younger simply so they can match in with some people that are still within their age range. Of course, there's people that do totally different things than that, but let's stick on that. So in a sense, I would say that they're really trying to work the algorithm to be able to be seen, because let's just say that they're, I don't know what the algorithms are now, but let's say that they're 60 and the cutoff is like 55 for that category. And like nobody, not nobody, but a lot of people don't actually do the 55 plus older, because that's like all lumping everybody in that higher end. I can see where someone might change their profile just to fit in, just to be seen, because they might have already been through this whole rigmarole where they're not getting any connections or not being shown any people. So if that's the case, what I would do in that situation is when you actually talk to them. And first, I'll back up to say that if you're doing online dating, I do have a vetting process. I haven't been on an online dating service for a very long time. However, I really, really found it fun and fascinating to use it as a tool to heighten my intuition, because the method that I would take is I would tune into their picture. And there's basic things. Okay, I'm getting a little off topic, but I'll come back to it. There's basic things you can see from a profile picture. If every picture, most of them have sunglasses or a hat or something that's hiding something, there's something that they don't want you to know. But the eye contact is really, really important, to be able to see their eyes. And that gives you, I'm not saying like everyone can do a psychic reading, but I'm saying like, Malcolm Gladwell talks about blink all the time. You can know and have a feeling about someone instantly based on their photograph. I'm not saying make judgments. I'm just saying, oh, observation, note to self, right? Then when you're texting with them, how they write to you and how you feel about that, trust that, because that gets into really like where the integrity lies, whether they're a match vibrationally just in their life stage, where they are not just age wise, but just sophistication wise, savviness wise. They give you a lot of juicy nuggets on those first few texts. So really tune in to how you feel, because I think as women, and this is a broad reaching statement, we give men a lot of credit that a lot of times they don't deserve, especially in the upfront, because we want to believe that they have potential. Oh, he said this, but there's so much other potential. He looks good on paper, whatever. Okay. Stay away from all of those ideas and trust your gut about what you feel when you're reading it. So back to your specific question, when you're getting, this person's age is not at all what they said on the profile, point blank ask them, hey, why did you list an age that is not what you are? And hear what they have to say. And if they tell you what I said earlier, then maybe give them a shot. But if they make up some silly story, a story that as you're listening, like you go, there's something a little bit weird about that, trust that, right? We need to be trusting in our bodies what we think and feel in the moment. Because if you don't trust that, what happens is the mind comes in and we start making justifications. We start thinking, oh, well, maybe, right? I mean, you ladies, you know what I'm talking about. If you do, say yes in the chat, even if you're watching this on replay. Because we are notorious for wanting to see the beautiful aspects of everyone. So, okay, men, I'm not leaving you out. I'm just saying that as a woman, I know that a lot of times we do this. So give him a shot if you feel innately within that there was a good reason why he said he was 7 years younger than he is. But that's a pretty big age gap. And deep within me, I want to say, we don't lie. We're all about truth telling. So if you're in that place within you to tell the truth, then I would just be a little bit leery about someone who's going to start out a relationship with a lie, with something that's less than honest, or a picture, right? I mean, when I was on a dating site years and years ago, not only would I get the read on the photo, energetic aura read, And then, let's see what they're writing, not from judgment, observation, energetically, how does it make me feel? Then before I would even give an opportunity to meet in person, I would say, let's talk on the phone. Talk on the phone and you'll get so much. And listen, the first few things that someone says to you, they are telling you who they really are in those moments. So listen to that. I would also highly encourage a Zoom call, a video call as your first date. There's no reason to have to get together. I am all about in-person contact. Believe me, I think that is the best, which is why I don't do any online dating, because I think meeting people out in life and getting that whole feel of them is the best way to go about it. So yeah, let's see. I think we've got some comments here on this one. So let me just jump in. I want to see for sure. Okay. Wow. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad that that resonated for you. I think that there's just some really simple tips and tools we can use when we meet people. And yeah, lying is something we don't want to tolerate, but there is some fudge room there based on, what I said earlier. All right, we have another live question coming in. I have a difficult time expressing interest in a woman. Oh, okay. So was that in response to what we were talking about? Yes. Okay. So I think this is back to the earlier question, maybe the one that wasn't live. Yes. So I would ask you to just go a little bit deeper within yourself and ask why. What is that little bit of residual, or maybe that big block in there that's making you feel less confident about having a conversation or approaching? So that's a great question, a great comment from the man's perspective, because I do think it's hard today, especially today for men, because there's been so much that's happened. So much that's happened with like, what's appropriate, what's not, what can I say, what can I not say, what's offensive, what works, so I get it that there's some real nuggets in there that I think are just like societal thought constructs now about, it's not the old days of, men opening doors for women, because some women are offended by that. So I get it. It is getting a little bit more sticky. And so if it's that, then feel into that. But if it's something deep within you and something that is just a bit of an insecurity, then dig in, find out what it is so you can blow it up and release it, because there's no reason to not just talk to our brothers and sisters out there on planet Earth, especially if we find someone attractive. It doesn't even mean that it's their physical body that's attractive. It can be their energy, their aura. Like you're just like, oh, I want to get to know that person. And so what's the worst that can happen? They ignore you, or they say, what are you talking to me for? I mean, and then you go, oh, okay, well, just, it wasn't the connection I was thinking. So yeah, be brave and jump in and tell people how you feel. And when people don't have a reciprocal response that makes you feel good, don't take it so personal. I mean, it is personal, but don't take it personal in the sense that you don't have to take it as a dig on you. It just wasn't a match. All right. If there's any other comments on that, I'm happy to comment more. Let's see here on the next question. I think we're good on the live for now. Okay. So the next question is, why do you think so many spiritual people and practitioners are broke? Well, first of all, let's acknowledge that there are so many spiritual people that are incredibly abundant and wealthy. And, we've got lots of people. I mean, I don't want to name names, but, we could look at Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson's. I mean, there's lots of people that have made a lot of money doing their spiritual work, helping to raise the vibration. Now, for the masses, I get it. There's a lot of people out there that are really doing the work and really offering some incredible healing modalities, offering just like these upgraded templates for everyone. So why are a lot of the spiritual people still struggling? Well, part of it is that money isn't the driver anymore. That there's this acknowledgement and knowing that money isn't what brings happiness. Opportunity brings happiness, and having money also brings opportunity, but we don't have to have money to be happy. In fact, some of the most wealthy people, as you know, are unhappy. So it's all about lining up with spirit And so for the people who are lining up with spirit and they're not quite making it yet financially, I want to say it's kind of like that starving artist program. You know how a lot of artists don't make it and they're like really struggling, and there's like just this idea out there in the collective that most artists struggle, like, and don't do that, like, don't go be an artist because you won't make any money. It was kind of the scare. I think we're really moving out of that, especially as we go into the internet, and there's so many creatives and creative people that are putting their heart and their soul in their work out into the world and getting compensated for it. But that wasn't necessarily the case in the last few decades. Like, really, it was hard for a lot of people who stepped out of the matrix, people who stepped out of the corporate world, people who did something different. It was hard, and it still is. I get it, but it doesn't have to be. And it's a matter of switching your lens. It's a matter of really going deep within on what are your money blocks. Your money blocks, the collective money blocks, right? Projections that people want to put onto you. I know when I left my corporate life, gosh, it's been over 10 years ago, that was really scary for a lot of people close to me, because it was like, well, whoa, how are you going to make up for this like incredible, significant income that you're making? And and the health insurance and da. So that's the golden handcuffs, right? And so it's all about trusting spirit, and it's about trusting who we really are and living who we are in a way that we know we are contributing to humanity, and knowing that the money will come. And so I think we're at a time where there's going to be a massive breakthrough in the next year, actually, but in the next 3 to 5, we're going to see light workers, way showers, spiritually oriented people that are here showing templates and shining their light brightly. We're going to see them as really rising, and people seeing their value and their worth, because people are going to wait. I want what you have. And it's the energy, it's the aura, it's the radiance that people who have done the work, are doing the work, shine out brightly. So hang in there. If the person asking the question is someone who's also not quite making it financially on the more spiritual path, don't worry, be happy. You will. And you do have to take inspired action. This isn't just about sitting around doing nothing, but it's about manifesting from the core of your being that is connected to source. That is so important. Not connected to your mind, not like, oh, I think about this and I think this. No, it's like, I feel this. No, I am this. And when we are that, the universe can bring everything to us effortlessly. We still participate, but with ease and flow and grace. All right, let's go on to the next question. I have a history with my own devil and have met a new man that reminds me of him. How do I tell the difference between a charming narcissist that makes me feel good and a genuine man with a real connection? Ooh, juicy. Well, here's another phenomenon happening right now: the narcissist and the empath. So it's a beautiful combination that just turns out to be really miserable, because the empath wants to give and give and give, and the narcissist wants to take and take and take. But here's the dynamic, and here's how you could tell quite easily in the first meeting with this person. What are they talking about? Are they talking about themselves? Are they asking you any questions? How do you feel when they ask you the questions? Do you feel like they're filling your cup and boasting you in a way that you're like feeding into this real dynamic? What are the topics that they're bringing up? Like, really tune into the topics. If it's all about them, if they're, telling you all these stories about how much money they make, how successful they are, people who are really grounded and within themselves don't need to be identified with all of these parameters about characteristics that they are. I used to laugh. Many years ago, I lived in Orange County, and blessings to Orange County. I still love Orange County. But it's a little bit on the, let's say, materialistic side oftentimes. And out and about, the three questions that would oftentimes come up when I was single back then, and kind of in the scene of it all, was, what do you do for a living? What do you drive? And what was the third one? It's not coming to me right now, but and which side of the 5 freeway do you live on? Like, are you on the 405 or the 5? And so it gave you some proximity to, like, how close they were to the ocean. And what it all rolled up to was really them calculating your value and worth based on income and monetary success in a job that seems, for all intents and purposes, well, maybe not normal, but that they can get their head around and go, oh, okay, so you're successful, or let me put you in this camp now, or let me put you in that camp. Okay, so I digress a little bit. I digress a little bit from the narcissist empath, but I think it's so important because it's how do we feel about the questions that people are asking us? Because if it's those questions, then in some cases, yes, they get asked just because people are nervous and they don't know what else to ask. But come up with questions that you want to lead with when you meet new people. It doesn't have to be romantic people. Questions that you go, oh, if I ask this question, it's just going to give me a little bit better idea of where they are in their life, right? Where they are on their awakening journey. And I'm going to say that because I know that people listening to my show are on their awakening journey. That's why we're here. We're here to transform relationships, and relationship lessons into love. We want to find out, what's that juicy life lesson that I called this person in to help me with. So yeah, I think really, really tune in. And if that person is wanting to get to know you very genuinely with questions that aren't like boasting you and overly complimenting you, but they're just really acknowledging and like tuning into you as you're speaking, that gives you a real feel for who they are. And also, I think, when I was saying, like, come up with a couple of questions that you feel would be really grounded into, yes, sort of again, I don't want it to sound like it's a judgment, because we're not trying to then place them into a bucket. But, maybe it's something that's deep, or maybe it's something that's basic. Like when they say something about a situation, like, oh, why do you think you've called that into your soul's plan in this lifetime? It might be something like that. Maybe that's a little too much, right? Admittedly. But maybe it's something that's more basic, just like, oh gosh, why do you think you called that situation into your life? Or, wow, that's so wonderful that you've been able to do X, Y, and Z. How has that really impacted your life as a whole? Right? So you ask some questions that asks them to dig a little bit deeper in vulnerability and sharing with you what might give you some insight into where they're at, and if they're a vibrational match to where you are. Because a lot of times in this narcissist empath connection, the narcissist sees the light in the empath and wants it, and wants to find a way to extrapolate it. And the empath, a lot of times, until we really wake up and get this, is willing to just give and give and give. And, oh, yes, and I want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help you. And I'm just suggesting that we need to have some boundaries on this helping thing to let people go do their own journey. And so, yeah, use your discernment, use your gut innate feeling. And if you're not sure, then I would back off. I would just say, yeah, not sure. Note to self, and then navigate it from that perspective that you're not sure, and just be honest with yourself, as opposed to giving the person credit where credit isn't due. Oh, I'm sure they're a good person. Well, they may or they may not be. Let them tell you if they are, and they usually do. We just don't want to believe what they say in the first 5 minutes. All right, I think we've gone through that now. Let's go on to the next question, unless there's any additional comments or thoughts on that. Let me just take a quick look here. I don't think so. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. I've recently started to wake up on my spiritual path. I'm struggling a little and I'm wondering if you have a morning routine you'd recommend. I think morning routines are so specific to each individual person. And I also think that for me, I know that when people would tell me what to do, it was sort of like, I put my heels in the ground and be like, I don't know, that doesn't work for me. I'm not saying you're that stubborn. I'm stubborn, but I would consider a couple of these options that I'm going to throw out for you. Gratitude. Every morning when I wake up, one of the first things I do after putting on hot water is I start writing the top 10 things that I'm grateful for and why. I am grateful and blessed for blah, 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 because blah, 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 blah. It really helps me to reflect on yesterday. It helps me to reflect on right now. Sometimes it's like, I am really grateful for a roof over my head, heat in my house, and a hot cup of tea. And you can feel into the gratitude and the gratefulness of that. And that is just as powerful as I'm grateful for $1 million that makes me feel secure. It's like, we don't have to judge like the magnitude of these things. We have to go into the gratitude of how we feel. And when we can feel the gratitude, not just say I'm grateful, but really feel it. I have a weird story that's coming up. It's weird just because it's like, stuff comes forward and says, say this. And years ago now, I'm going to say like maybe 4 years ago, I was driving my parents' car and my parents were both in the car with me and we were on a freeway in Arizona and we were just going along. It was nighttime and this semi was semi out of control and it almost sideswiped us. I mean, it was so close. I can't even believe that the mirrors didn't break off because this was so close to us. And we weren't sure what happened in that moment. We all just like were petrified by this experience. Luckily, I was able to still hold the wheel and not overly swerve because there's cars going on all sides of us. And it was just that boom. I mean, like, wow, what just happened? And it was the one time in my life I felt such immense gratitude for being alive. I'd never experienced that intensity of a wave of being alive and of being grateful that we hadn't been in a car accident. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying you need to be in a trauma situation. I hope for you not to be. I'm saying let's cultivate that level of gratitude in our bodies so that we feel it. And, hot tea is a really great thing, or a hot cup of coffee, because when you're sipping it, you can actually feel it go in if you pay attention to it. So it's a simple way of actually just feeling grateful. Like, oh, I can feel it within me, this gratefulness, this wonderfulness. So Lily, my beautiful little Bali dog, she's also a great way for me to feel that gratitude. So feel into gratitude, write your list. Meditation. And I've talked about this so many times, but I had such a hard time meditating and, flower photography, observational flower photography is what really got me into it. Like, I don't know, 20 something years ago now. It was a way for me to quiet my mind. And so find a spot. I think it's, you can go out into nature, which is wonderful. Or find a spot in your home. But I think one of the things that's really helpful for a lot of people is to have the same spot. So create a little altar or have a little place, a spot in your home where when you go there, you are just going to quiet your mind and ask for connection to source. It just provides a level of stability. So if you do go outside, maybe you find the same rock. It doesn't have to be, but the routine of it helps quiet the mind right there, because the mind otherwise is like, wow, I don't know, which rock should I sit on? Wait, which lawn should I go to? Oh, is this a good spot? Is this too noisy? Right? Because then the mind's really involved in making the decision. And oh, geez, I don't even have time. Right? That's the mind. So we want to get away from the mind and quiet the mind and ask source. And another technique that's just so simple is just ask for the light. And just as your eyes are closed in meditation, pretend as though there is a white, bright light like the sun that's out there. And just if you can visualize just that, you are on a great trajectory. Another thing that comes to mind, which is a very interesting thought, it's not something I do every day, but it's something that now that I'm saying it, perhaps is a message for me, is shaking therapy. So, especially for all of us really active mind people, if you just do this shaking, like literally you're standing and you're just shaking, think of a dog, think of an animal. What happens when they get trauma? They shake it off. We see it over and over and over, whether it's a deer or it's a dog. If something happens, they just like shake it off. So, you may or may not have read the book Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, but in the book, I talk about Ratu Bagus and his shaking ashram. And what an incredible experience and strange experience that was to go and shake for 5 days. I believe it was 6 hours a day. So it was pretty crazy. And we were all shook up by the time we left. So yeah, that would be another thing, because why I'm saying shaking is that it gets you out of the mind and makes you feel the body, right? Even if it's like, oh, my knees hurt, don't do it so your knees hurt. But I'm just saying, feel into your toes, like, oh, I can feel the balls of my feet really, really making contact with the ground. And oh, I can really feel the energy in my hands and in my arms. And oh, my arm feels tired. It's like, because then you're focused inward to your body as opposed to just listening to the mind. So that's a really nice technique. I know it sounds crazy and it looks crazy, but I know that for me, that it's a wonderful feeling when I can just shake it out. So try it. All right. I think that's probably it. Oh, there was one more that it just was coming to mind. Set the intention of how you want to feel in the day. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel happy? Do you want to feel joyous? Do you want to feel accomplished? Do you want to feel purposeful? Whatever it is, take that word and pull it forward and feel it right now. And everything that you're doing throughout the day, oh, one step closer to that. Oh, I already feel that. I already feel purposeful. Oh, I'm already doing purposeful work, whether it's taking care of grandchildren or going to work and helping solve a problem, right? Oh, I've already been productive. So find that word or words that you want to place as your intention for that day and immediately start feeling them, because it's simple. It's the law of attraction that's going to bring more of those things to you, where you feel like you're going to be purposeful, joyful, productive. I mean, let's look at the opposite, and then everyone here will know exactly what I'm talking about. You wake up on, the wrong side of the bed. It feels like everything snowballs from there downhill, right? We have all experienced that. Why? Because it's the energy that we start attracting that. So all I'm suggesting is that you get those words and then you attract what you want, those feelings of joy, those feelings of peace, those feelings of blissfulness that we want in our day. Start feeling it immediately as you're sitting, writing the word, right? Okay, wonderful. Hopefully that's helpful. I'd love to hear if anyone else has any other morning routine that you feel is really helpful for everyone else. Please write it in the chat. I think that would be wonderful to hear from you guys. Okay, let's go on to the next question. How do I overcome the depths of sadness that I feel when I'm not even sure what exactly I'm sad about? I would say this is going to sound weird, but be happy that you can feel that you're sad, because then you're not numb. There's many people who are absolutely numb. Chances are, if you really feel like there's not anything in particular that's making you feel sad, that you're waking up. You're waking up to another level of expanding your consciousness, of wanting to have that connection to source, of wanting to pull through the light, of wanting to radiate more. Not that we need more, but the more we raise our vibration, we do emanate light out to others. Look at the sadness as a signal. It's a signal to you that there's something within you ready to bubble up, or it is bubbling up, or it's there and it's sitting there and it's going, la, 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 I'm here making you feel sad. so that you pay attention to me, which is me, the body. I want you to feel this so that you can identify a thought construct, maybe a subconscious thought, something that's happening that you've been ignoring. We all have immense amounts of joy, and we all have immense amounts of sadness that can happen in our lives like that. So let's work on flipping the switch to go from the sadness to the joy. And the first thing we do, the way that we do that, is we just acknowledge it and we accept it and we feel into it, right? We don't try to shove it down or go distract ourselves. I mean, yes, there's sometimes when distracting ourselves helps us get out of that circuitous loop. But if we're talking about the beginning of it, you're just noticing it, then really feel into it and just really be gentle with yourself and really feel into, what is this sadness? Is it something that's, a thread in a relationship that I'm having with someone, a child, a partner? Is it that I don't feel that I'm living my purpose? What is it? Like, really get into it. Feel like, what is that sadness? And don't shove it down. We want to get it out and we want to utilize it, to leverage it, right? Because this is all about transforming relationships, and we want to take the relationship lessons and transform them into love. So yes, that sadness can turn into a big ball of fun love that's white and bright. All right, let's see. I think we've got a couple more questions. If there's any more live callers that want to ask a question. All right. Can I remain in the golden handcuffs that you reference and still be spiritual? Yes and no. Yes, you can. And I hope and wish that many, many, many people do, that you wake up and wake up and wake up and expand your consciousness while in corporate life. Why? Because then you can share that template with everyone else. Other people notice when you start to be happier, or you have an aura or a vibration about yourself. And so, yes, infiltrate yourself within that corporate world, the golden handcuffs. Why I say no is that if you don't have the awareness and or the discipline to really bring that light in a way that you feel confident about, and you just let it get sucked, then the answer would most likely be no, because then you're just going to be in that hamster wheel and you can't quite get out. So if you can stop the hamster wheel while you're still in the golden handcuffs, then you can work this, and you should work this, because we need light workers in corporate life. We need light workers everywhere. So I would encourage you to keep going on the journey. And the other thing that comes to mind is you will know when it's time to jump out of the golden handcuffs. And the other thing I want to say is, let's just define golden handcuffs for a second, just in case someone's not clear. I talk about this a lot, but golden handcuffs are when you've got that really incredible corporate job, or you work for a company and you're making good money, you've got benefits, health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, you get bonuses, you get other gifts and things that are just wonderful, right? You work hard and you get this back in return. Those are the golden handcuffs, because it makes you feel like, if I leave, maybe I won't have that, or how will I have that, or what will I have to give up? So the golden handcuffs can easily be taken off when you're in a place from a spiritual level of consciousness that you know that source is here to give you everything you want and need. Ask and you shall receive was one of the top lessons, again, in one of my most recent ayahuasca journeys. It's not that I don't believe it, but I needed the reminder again. And so I'm going to keep reminding myself, and I'm going to keep reminding everyone else, that it's ask and you shall receive. The reason why things don't come, the reason why sometimes law of attraction doesn't work, is because you've got a block. You've got an idea about yourself or a social construct that's out there that reflects back to you constantly that this is impossible, this is impossible. And that's where you have to believe and know and embody the truth that ask and you shall receive will be fulfilled. It is the law of the universe. And the only thing in between it is your mind, your thoughts. And, I could go on forever about this because it's like your conscious thoughts, your subconscious thoughts, your ancestral thoughts, the collective thoughts. It's so much the cultural thoughts. There's like so many things that can come into play that can block you that you just don't even know. But that's the work, and that's what makes it fun. So if you make it fun in the sense that you want to go on an exploration, deeper into yourself, you're going to find that it's just part of the journey that you set yourself up for to live in this lifetime. All right, I think we are just down to the wire here. I think I've got all the questions answered, and I so want to say thank you. Each week, I have so many incredible contributors, people that join in live. I so appreciate all of your comments. Please, if you're watching on replay, comment, like, subscribe. You'll get notifications anytime that I'm going live, but it's 11:11 every Sunday, Pacific time, that we go live and I answer questions to anything having to do with transforming relationships, to love and to life, personal development, spiritual growth, you name it. We talk about it here on this show. So thank you so much for joining in. It looks like we've got one last comment. Thank you, Beth. Yes, you are so welcome. And good luck, Richard. Yes. So thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next week.